Adam Lerner, and I wanted to talk to you guys about buying used gear. I'm definitely a big fan of buying used gear. I wouldn't say that I make it a point to buy used gear, but in a lot of situations, it's not a bad idea to buy something used, to try to find something where the depreciation might already be out of that item. For example, the minute you buy a brand new camera or a brand new lens, you know that the value is going to depreciate if you were to flip it on the used market. So if you're really thinking about how your gear is just really a commodity, sometimes buying used is not a bad idea. And there's some things that you guys should really think about before you just run out and go on Craigslist and meet somebody in some back alley of a parking lot at 2 o'clock in the morning. Speaking of that, I would always suggest that if you're going to buy something on Craigslist, try to have some kind of conversation with the buyer beforehand. So at the very minimum, try to get off of Craigslist and see if you guys can have personal email contact with each other and possibly a phone call. I know nobody makes phone calls. Everyone is, all virtual on email and text messaging, but sometimes a phone call sometimes a phone call is just a way to see if the person is legit. Photos are a really good thing. If there's little tiny thumbnails and you can't quite see what it is, don't waste your time showing up to look at a piece of gear and you look at it and you were like, wait a second, this thing looks like crap. This was not what I was signing up for. You were supposed to sell me this. You said it was like brand new. That's another thing you got to be careful of. A lot of times people think that their gear is in better shape than it is. They'll say, oh, it's like new or used 5 times. And then you look at it and this person is not as conscientious or careful with their equipment that you might want to be. The other thing to think about too is that being that gear is a commodity, and you are going to technically be the new custodian of this piece of gear that was previously owned by somebody else, you are eventually probably going to sell it and pass it down along the line as well. So if you're going to buy something that looks pretty ratty from the start, you have to keep in mind that when you do go to try to sell it, that the next person is going to see that it's kind of ratty and you might not really get your money back. Something else to think about. I am a huge fan when I buy stuff used of having the seller include all of the original items. And I mean everything from the box to the packing materials to the manual to the warranty card, all the little bits and bobs in there, because there are plenty of people out there when they buy a used piece of gear, they want all that stuff. It helps them feel reassured about the idea that they're buying something from somebody who took care of their equipment. When you see somebody who's trying to sell you a piece of gear and it's missing the caps or it's missing the lens hood or it's really dirty and dusty, they probably didn't take care of that. And, in the 2 or 5 minutes that you're going to test it out, you might not be able to notice, all the stuff that might be potentially wrong with that lens. Now, a lot of equipment comes with manufacturer warranty. Very often, if you can buy a piece of gear and the warranty card isn't filled out, that means that if the item was bought within a certain period of time, you can still you still have that warranty. That warranty will still apply. For example, if you buy a Nikon lens, it's got a 5-year warranty. If you buy it from somebody 2 years after they bought it, you can potentially still have that warranty for the next 3 years or so. Another nice thing to do is that if you do buy something from somebody who bought the item new and they've got the original sales receipt, even if they don't give it to you, at least maybe have them let you see the sales receipt so okay, when they said that they bought this in December of 2011, they actually did buy it they actually did buy it in December 2011 from whatever camera store. Some other things to think about. If you are buying from somebody on Craigslist, again, I can't reiterate how important it is to come up with a safe location where there's plenty of people around. When they say, yeah, why don't you come over to my house, and you start Googling mapping it and it doesn't look right, or it's a neighborhood you're not familiar with. Not to say that people are creeps, But I think that it's a really good idea if you can try to have some common ground. So meet at a Starbucks or a McDonald's or some kind of a busy place where you can sit down and there's plenty of people around, so that if the situation doesn't look right, you're not all by yourself with a pocket full of cash. Some other things to think about. If you're buying stuff used on eBay, the same kind of stuff applies. Look at their feedback. If somebody is selling some used equipment and they've got no feedback, that's a little bit suspicious. If they've got a ton of negative feedback, that's really suspicious. Look at their feedback. If they've got, let's say, a lot of positive feedback, but they've got kind of a less than perfect rating and they've got all this neutral stuff like slow shipping, bad packing, whatever, look at that stuff. Don't get too fixated on trying to save a few dollars to do business with somebody who might turn out to not be a really great seller. Because think about it. You're investing in your craft. You're investing in something that's really important to you. Photography is an expensive craft. So if you're going to spend money on gear, try to make sure that you can vet the person or the seller that you're buying it from. So look at all of these different factors and take them into account before you just hit the buy it now button. There's tons of great sellers out there. A lot of these sellers are offering free shipping. A lot of them are offering a 14-day or so money-back guarantee. So I look for things like that. I look for a seller that's not afraid to say, look, I'm putting out great pictures. I'm putting out a great description. I'm going to give it to you for fair or free shipping. And if you don't want it, you can send it back and you can get a refund. Okay. Now, do your research before you buy this stuff, because again, like, wasting your time and driving out and looking at a piece of gear that might not be what you wanted. Make sure, even with eBay, if you don't like the pictures, contact the seller, have them send you additional pictures, have them send you additional information. It's one of those things where unless you're buying something that's like one of a kind and you have to jump on it and you feel that need, which I still think you probably shouldn't be too impulsive about, take your time to find out as much as you can about that item and the seller if you can. Obviously, you don't want to find out too much about the seller, but you want to make sure that it's coming from somebody who's going to be fair with you. Some other things. What other things are we going to think about here? I think the same is going to apply for you as a photographer selling used gear. If you're going to sell used gear, take tons of pictures. Okay, that doesn't mean like 500, but that also doesn't mean 2. Try to show all the different angles. If you're taking a picture of a lens, show the barrel, show both sides of the glass, show the box and all of the little bits that it comes with. Take really nice, clean pictures. Edit them so they all have a really nice, consistent look. Put in a really good description. If you don't really know how to do it, go online and do some research and maybe look at some of the descriptions, maybe from the manufacturer, from what other sellers are doing, and try to put that information in there so that when you're selling your stuff, again, you're not wasting your time and you're not wasting anybody else's time. So there's just a lot of things for you guys to think about out there when you're buying used gear. Number one, just be careful, okay? For the most part, I try to buy new equipment. And, I think that when you buy new gear, you've got the manufacturer's warranty, you've got the store who's going to stand behind it, and you know that the equipment hasn't been put through the ringer and hasn't been abused. But when I do buy used gear, which I occasionally do, I really try to find out as much as I possibly can about it, and as far as condition and all that kind of stuff before I go and make the purchase. So that's it for now. Just wanted to give you guys some tips on buying used gear. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you soon.